we're going to try this again. I fixed the camera. This is a test to see if my streaming is working, and also in the process probably address an issue that has continuously come up. If anything, I can um, edit this at some point if I decide to download it. And so people aren't constantly staring at me going down the road, I'm going to rotate. Because I feel that rather than see me going down, or stare at me, might as well there. Because what I do is I do a lot of tour videos, driving around town. And also, I'm going to start making these webcasts when I'm going to the airport. I travel a lot, and thus when I'm on my way to the airport, sometimes I listen to CNN, sometimes I listen to YouTube content, and now, hopefully, I can start making commentary while going down the road. And as part of this little test, I'm going to do a running commentary. This has to do with people making accusations on YouTube and other people claiming that accusations that are being made against them that they consider false. And so let me go over this a little bit here. Anyone that knows who I am knows that I've had some pretty serious accusations made against me. They're false, of course, and you know there's been a lot of vetting that's gone on for decades, a past decade, by people who want to believe this stuff, and they have found that the stuff that they have been told is quite false. There are other people, of course, that decide that they'll just take the word for it and not do any vetting, and thus I get a new crop of accusers every once in a while. You know, and I've gotten to the point where I'm done fighting the accusations specifically because the stuff is already on the internet, and I've gotten most of it removed, but there's still quite a bit out there. And I'm going to take an example of how this stuff can be used and why it was created in the first place. Now, starting in about 2006, people in certain groups on the internet who decided that they didn't want others encroaching upon their little empire, or people who just decided they wanted to troll somebody, started putting all kinds of accusations up about a number of different people, including me. In the process, they created some rather peculiar material, and as there were a number of criminal prosecutions that took place against the creators of this material. Other individuals were exposed and simply vanished off the internet, and certain blogs were exposed to be fraudulent, and some are now gone, and some can't be taken down because the owners of the blogs have either walked away from them or are deceased, and there's no way to log on to these blogs to get rid of them. And so this unproven material against dozens of people remains. Now, this is how these things work. This is how hypocrites get a hold of this. Again, this is unedited raw video, so if I stumble a little bit, excuse me. Now, we come to the main purpose of this use of test time, as I want to call it, since I've got nothing else better to do right now. There's an individual who has intruded himself into a missing child case. This individual seems to think that he's the only individual in the world that has the answers to what happened to a missing child. He's come up with a rather odd, to say the least, set of accusations regarding this one particular case, and then he's expanded his theories into other areas that are just as out there. And I mean, these theories are so out there, Coast to Coast America would be made to seem mainstream, if anybody's familiar with that old radio show. Anyhow, so this particular conspiracy theorist started out accusing a number of people of a cover-up of the kidnapping of a child. That was his first conspiracy theory. He's expanded since. And after a while, people started questioning his motives for doing so. Why was this individual picking on someone that he has never met, knows very little of anything about the individual's true background, and so forth? And so me and a number of other people started to question his motives and paid a heavy price for it. This individual and one or two others who are close supporters of his dug up all these blogs, false accusations, and so forth, and threw them up on any time that there was a legitimate question raised about something the individual has claimed. They would throw this material up there and say, this is the kind of person that's coming after me. He claims to know where a missing child is. He claims to be part of the missing, claims to have gone to a party with another one. Listen to this phone call that was made to this individual. Look at the posts that were made about this individual, on and on and on and on. Fine. So what is interesting is he turns it around and says everybody's out to get him. And the same exact methodology is being used that he uses against me. This individual called at least 3 or 4 different law enforcement officers and said that I should be investigated as a suspect in the murder or participation somehow child trafficking of 3 children, not 1 but 3. He sent material to law enforcement that everybody knows is false. Law enforcement knows is false, including the law enforcement agency he sent the material to, but he sent it to him again. And, and then he gets all bent out of shape when I come to him and say, look, this stuff is false. And he makes all kinds of excuses and everything, yet when confronted with the same accusations that's made to him, the first thing he does is call a lawyer. He can't stand to be criticized, so what he does is he goes out and says, okay, I'm going to call a lawyer. I'm going to sue you for defamation. And I'm going to sue the other people for defamation. Yet, he continues to make the same kind of accusations against them. This is what you call being a hypocrite. And as I said before, I'm not going to fight the accusations. I've given up. I'm 69 years old. There's nothing I can do about it. If this stuff were to disappear from the internet today, the damage is done. People have got this stuff stored in their computers. He's got all the material stored in his computer. End of story. These blogs can't be taken down, so someone else can come along and use the same material, and it's this never-ending cycle. Now, this is where this comes in. Because of this lawsuit, which I just learned about, is pending. I can't mention the person's name. I can't talk about him directly. It's an anonymous person. It could be anybody. He is not the only person engaged in this kind of behavior. So he can't say, well, you're talking about me. Prove it. There's dozens of people out there making the same accusations. You can't, which one are you? Show me in anything that I say that says it's you saying these things. And as long as I don't mention you by name, I am clear. You do remember that you're making accusations against a certain individual simply by not mentioning her by name, and any recordings you have, whether they be court record or not, you're deleting her name from the recording. You're using everybody else's name but hers. So you're getting your point across, and you're giving enough information to the public that they can figure out who it is you're talking about. So, but that's that little rant. Now, another subject while we're on this little rambling I'm doing here, going down the Orange Blossom Trail, is having to do with the deep state Pedogate crowd, which this person's a part of, by the way. I find it rather funny that the Pedogaters only are interested in certain sex abusers, child kidnappers, pedophiles, so on and so forth. They're only interested in a certain kind. And it has to be a certain political party and a certain political leaning of the certain political party. And also some, depending on the person doing the accusing, some members of the other party. And to give you an example, this Pizzagate thing has been floated around for as long as I can remember. Supposedly, child sex trafficking and pedophile ring was being run out of the basement of a pizza parlor. It doesn't have a basement. I don't know why this particular pizza parlor was chosen. I really didn't dig deep enough, other than maybe it was a hangout for people that worked for and were staffers and were supporters of Hillary Clinton. It's hard to know where these people start this stuff from. But anyway, they basically tried to drive a small pizza parlor out of business with this theory of theirs. And they almost succeeded. They did succeed in getting some idiot to go over there with a gun, and his intent was to shoot people in the place, but he got caught before he could do it. And they didn't seem to care that was the result of their conspiracy theory. They said, well, too bad. Or you don't take responsibility for it. That's one thing interesting about these people that make these kind of accusations. They make the accusations, but they don't take responsibility for the result of their actions. If somebody decides to shoot somebody because they think they're falsely, by the way, think that they're a pedophile, well, it ain't my fault. All I did was report the news, even though it's false. And in a lot of cases, there doesn't seem to be much legally that can be done about it. But getting back to Pedogate, QAnon, deep state, all these weird conspiracy theories, which are variations of the same thing. Virtually all the people involved in this are Trump supporters. I have yet to find one single person involved in the Pedogate movement, the QAnon movement, the Deep Space movement, any of the Deep State movements, getting spaced out today, that are anything but Trump supporters. Trump can't do anything wrong. This is the common theme with these people. Trump is perfect. Trump can't do anything wrong. Trump, get down, Salute the flag of the immortal Trump. And because of this, anything Trump does, or anyone that Trump versus, limits to any Pedogate related accusation. And here we have Representative Jim Jordan. Now, I briefly covered this little fact in my blog that I did today. Mr. Jordan has been accused of ignoring the actions of an abuser while he was an assistant coach for an Ohio wrestling team. College, high school, can't remember which, because up until recently, I wasn't paying too much attention to this case. But because Mr. Jordan is a close ally of Donald Trump and supported by Donald Trump and has certain political philosophies that go along with the Pedogate crowd, they've come out with this deep state theory that he is being smeared. They don't care that 5 people were allegedly victimized and were victims and survivors of the very thing that Pedogate is supposed to be fighting. Very hypocritical, I think. But, and this is just one of many, many, many examples of where these people will accuse one spectrum of things, but totally dismiss other people as being the victims of this deep state conspiracy. Now, another thing I've learned in doing research is that these Pedogate groups have been infiltrated by Russian bots. And it's just not something I'm saying off the top of my head. I have done a lot of research on this, and I don't put this stuff up on the internet because, to be perfectly honest, up until now, I haven't felt like it. I just sit there, I read this stuff, I keep track of it, and move on. Because I don't have a following. I'm not going to spend 20, 30 hours of work putting together material to put up on the internet and then nobody pay attention to it. I get fewer than 10 to 20 people that visit my blog at any one time. I don't know as if I'm going to get anybody to go on my YouTube page and I publish it. But, I'm going to try. Simply because what all YouTube is going to be for me is just a place to voice my opinion and to test out certain media stuff, which is why I do what I do. I am first and foremost a technology geek. I like to experiment with different pieces of telecommunications technology. I like to try different things. Back in 2008, I was the only private individual that was live streaming while driving in a moving vehicle. Either a motor coach, automobile like I'm doing now, and eventually my media van. I was the only one doing it. I was the only private individual that was doing 24/7 coverage, live coverage of a missing child case, which is what got me into trouble. And this was back before smartphones were capable of doing these sort of things. I had to go out and I had to buy what is now known as a hotspot and create the technology necessary to do these live streams through a laptop. It was an interesting setup. I had one point on one of these days I want to make a video to show exactly how I pulled this off. But I did for $200 or $300 what would cost broadcast networks the tens of thousands of dollars to do. Using off-the-shelf uh, hardware and software and third-party streaming companies rather. Back in those days, it was Ustream and Pedal Talk, among others. Now, YouTube has finally picked up and come up with a more powerful way of doing it. And it's the goal I've always had in mind was to have it to where people could see these webcasts and not have to pay for them. And now everybody does it. So it's doing what I'm doing now is not novelty. But that is also the reasons for the accusations that I started talking about at the beginning of my rant, so to speak. Back in 2008, when I was doing my live streams, I started getting trolled by Anonymous, or someone claiming to be part of Anonymous, and some people from 4chan, which if anybody asks me why I have a beef with 4chan, this is the reason for it. 4chan basically put me out of the streaming business.